Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be posting the final of the 100k giveaway videos. In this case we have the battleship game. This means by leaving a comment below this video you have a chance of winning one of 5 Lenin, 5 Massachusetts or 5 Roma, meaning there's a total of 15 tier 8 battleship premiums being given away as a reward from this video. Also note that once again the cruiser winners have been posted on my Twitter. I'll post a link to the tweet in a comment below so you guys will have no issues finding it. The Bajie. If someone told me like a year ago that an Izumo is going to be one of my comfort picks, I would have said they were drunk. But I think it's a combination of people underestimating the Izumo's AP penetration and the fact that it's tier 9 matchmaking. The benefits of tier 9 matchmaking is mostly that you get to avoid carriers most of the time, and if you do have to face carriers, it tends to be tier 8 actually. Tier 9 is really the bliss tier right now, where you mostly get to face tier 7s, tier 8s, or like a game like this, you face nothing but enemy tier 9s, and a fair playing ground is something I am more than happy to take part in. It's when you get up tier that things tend to get a bit rough. Starting off, I go out towards the flank. My IOI is AFK, so obviously if I go towards the center, well, not only is this an island with a lot of, or this a map with a lot of islands in the center blocking my line of sight, but going, so there wouldn't actually be anything for me to shoot if I went center. It would also mean that I'm not actually creating any crossfire. The point of my central position battleship gameplay was always creating a crossfire with one of your flanking battleships, because, well, if you look at the other side of the map, for example, all 3 BBs are heading towards the side of the map, so a central position on the other side would create that crossfire. However, since my IOI is AFK, well, I do have 2 Aegers, but ultimately I can't really rely on them to create a crossfire because they're not really battleships, they're heavy cruisers. My Friesland has pushed into the cap and is contesting it with Hydro, so I want to push towards the flank. Basically as much as possible towards the flank, because that's the only way I can get firing arcs around the island. And of course I do want to kill off the Donskoy. The Donskoy is the biggest threat to my team, because, well, we had 2 DDs, we only have 1 DD now, and his radar is an excellent tool against them. Friesland is very good against enemy destroyers, and I have no doubt if I just allow this Friesland to 1 versus 1 to Changmu, he will easily win. However, a Donskoy with that radar can easily offset the balance. So we are pushing wide towards the flank, and I'm trying to force them out of position. I'm trying to force them out of this camp so that my Friesland can just secure the cap for our team without being contested or just, well, heavily pummeled. The Donskoy is, however, 19 kilometers away, and the Donskoy is a very fast cruiser with good firing angles, so at this point I know landing a shell on this guy or landing any sort of devastating strike requires him to make some significant mistakes. However, the Changmu is being greedy. He wants to push up and get torpedoes on me. Maybe he got tired of being constantly hydroed by the Friesland. They get a good hit in on the Friesland, but more importantly I get to line up a shot on the Changmu. Even with AP, you can do significant damage if RNG favors you, and I managed to land 5 out of 9 shells, which even with European damage is enough to take down the Changmu. And this is exactly what I wanted. Unlocking that C capture point, letting my team start ticking those points in our favor. I'm angling away from the torpedoes. I don't know how many there are. There should only be that 1 set, but I can't be sure if Friesland's Hydro perhaps have run out and there might be a 2nd set hidden in there. So we're just gonna play it safe. No point eating unnecessary torpedoes. We're still early in the game, and we're actually down a ship at this point. The torpedoes do run out, and I have actually, the Iowa has woken up from his AFK, and as you can see the Iowa is actually moving towards the center of the map. And if he's going center, well, then I'll happily take the flank. The concept, the point, is always to create a crossfire. Make it awkward for the enemy team to angle against you. Your guns are large, they hit hard, but they can be angled against. So creating crossfires is where it's at. This Iowa is actually about to turn full broadside, something that we are obviously going to punish. The downside is I'm shooting while I'm giving broadside myself, but I am in mid-turn, meaning I already am in a full turn, so even if they shoot back, I should have time to angle before any too heavily punishing hits come in. The Izumo does have a turtleback, but it's somewhat questionable, especially in the central parts of the ship. They get some punishment in on me, but it doesn't really matter. If we look at the minimap, you can see that my Iowa is pushing that central line. I take a glance at what he's doing, and I'm also pushing this flank at the same time. This is basically playing around your teammates. He goes center, I go flank. He goes flank, I go center. He pushes up, I push up. He starts turning away, disengaging. I'll probably start turning away, disengaging as well. But right now, as long as he's pushing, I want to keep pushing as well and just help create this crossfire. The priority target is obviously the Donskoy. He's the radar threat. If I can dislodge him or force him back, then my Friesland can push up more aggressively, provide more scouting for the team. Basically, nothing but good things can come if I destroy one of the radar cruisers. Meanwhile, my team on the other flank are collapsing, so even though I'm winning on this side, looking at the other side of the map is a grim vision indeed. The Aegir makes the mistake of giving broadside, and the Aegir is probably one of the easiest cruisers to Citadel right now. I mean, okay, maybe Izumo is easier, but it's honestly a close call. Aegir's turtleback is basically completely worthless, and the full broadside Aegir is one of the most easily devastatable cruisers out there. I go for a bit of a blind fire, expecting him to have stopped, but he's actually still going full speed, so that's not going to be enough lead. My Iowa has slowed down a bit, so I'm also taking some time. I want to see what this FDG is doing. Is he going to charge out behind the island? What is his plan? Well, a bit of patience. We have 2 caps to 1. Izumo is contesting A. We're not really in a hurry, and more importantly, the enemy just made a mistake. This time I have full vision of an Aegir giving broadside, and as mentioned, Aegir giving broadside is like Izumo giving broadside. Not too much surprise, I blap him with 2 citadels and he's basically down to 1/3 of his health and forced to completely disengage. Unlike an Alaska that is very hard to citadel, the Aegir is painfully easy to do so. And it turns out the FDG is being forced back by the Aegir. I don't want to be close enough that I can be rammed by him, but I do want to be close enough that I can deal consistent damage when he gives me broadside. Which is exactly what he does, but only 8,000. Got a bit unlucky with the dispersion, but it does happen. Regardless, this means it's go time. My Aegir is committing to the push. I need to put as much pressure on the FDG as I can to allow my Aegir to survive without being blapped. He's slowing down to try to get a shot at him. I aim basically slightly above the water, basically central height, because I'm not going to get citadels on him anyway, and I just want the maximum amount of hits to get the maximum amount of pen damage on him. You don't really citadel German battleships, so you should be going for the penetration damage. That means this cap and this flank is entirely open. I do want to take some pot shots at these cruisers running away, but this is where most battleships make a common mistake, and that's overcommitting into chasing the enemy team into their spawn. And that's usually how games are thrown. At this point they have no vision, so I wait. Aegir, once again, turns too much, gives too much broadside. You can't do this in an Aegir. I mentioned it repeatedly, the turtleback on that thing might as well not exist. And that's another 2 citadels, and the Aegir gets it deleted. The armor scheme on that ship is deceptive. Battleships will have absolutely no issues punishing that ship and punishing it heavily. It's one of the reasons why I don't rate that ship very highly, because it is excessively vulnerable when broadside. Donskoy still disengaging. Trying to take some pot shots at him as well. I would like to get the kill on him, but I don't want to make that basic mistake of putting too many of our resources into the enemy spawn, and thus leaving the objectives wide open for the enemy team to grab. You see that my Iowa is in fact pushing into their spawn, and that more than anything solidifies my decision. We already have a battleship in their spawn, chasing them back, forcing them away. I serve no purpose whatsoever there. I don't provide a crossfire, I don't actually help in any way, I'm just wasting my time. I get some good dispersion on the Donskoy, but surprisingly he shatters one of my AP shells, and once again RNG decides this guy is going to live. I want to slow down, I want to take one more shot at him, but with my Iowa pushing down that way and the Eger honestly kind of suiciding looking at his health, and more importantly both A and B caps being lost, we're not going to waste time. We are going to go help our cruiser and our destroyer secure the B objective instead. Dispersion looks very good, and I actually get 4 shells in on an angled Donskoy, which is excellent dispersion, and that means the Donskoy is finally dead. At this point they only have battleships left in their spawn, but they do have the cap advantage. Obviously we're not going to waste time on the battleships in the spawn. If an enemy battleship is sailing around in the spawn like these guys are, well, they're basically already neutralized. They're nullified as a threat. Why would we spend our ship, our resource, our map control to chase down something that is a useless resource? There is absolutely no point in it. And this is something we see so very often among battleship players. They win a flank, and instead of helping shore up the other flanks, secure map control, they keep pushing into the enemy spawn, and then they get picked off one by one while the enemy team holds map control. No, the best way to steamroll a one flank is to roll over the remaining objectives. Get those points ticking, get that cap control. A battleship in the enemy spawn, let him sit there. He's unlikely to be that big of a threat, especially on a map like this, where there's plenty of islands to hide behind, plenty of safe positions that you can take. I pop the heel, pop the spotter plane, trying to take some pot shots at them as I'm moving towards the rest of my team and trying to secure this map or this cap control for my team. My Iowa actually serves a bit of a purpose, helping me create some of a crossfire here. The further he pushes in there and the further I basically move towards A, the more of a crossfire we create. And the Iowa is a very fast battleship, whereas I had excellent penetration, so it actually works out pretty well. Note how I never actually want to go the exact same way as my teammate is. You want to create those crossfires. You want to have these surprising angles on the enemy. And once again, one of the most common battleship mistakes, blobbing up with your teammates and then never really getting any crossfires to shoot at. My team has secured B, and they are pushing into A. However, my Georgia is kind of charging in there. And that can be very dangerous because they have an Izumo, Sovietsky Soyuz, Missouri, Iowa. That's 4 tier 9 battleships, and he's all alone. The Georgia is fast, heals fast, has great secondaries, but the health pool is quite underwhelming and the armor isn't really that special. So if he pushes too hard and gets too crossfired, that Georgia is absolutely going to explode. My allies keep chasing them, so I'm just going to keep abusing the fact that he's basically forcing these ships to angle. His positioning might not be the best, fairly questionable, like chasing ships in enemy spawn, but that doesn't mean that we can benefit from the havoc he's causing on that flank. Missouri turns in, Sovietsky Soyuz is turning in, and I think even the Izumo is probably going to pop up soon, and then that Georgia is going to be in serious trouble. My Aegir is also pushing in, once again, very questionable. Aegir's armor is not too impressive. I'm pushing towards the flank as fast as I can to help them, pot shots on the way, and ultimately the Izumo does pop up. Now that I know where the Izumo is, now I can make my battle plan. Georgia goes down, not surprising, he gave broadside, instantly deleted. I know where the two ships are. The Sovietsky Soyuz is south of A, and Izumo is basically west of A. I pinged them to get back, don't get themselves killed. I want to go in there and take the brunt of the impact, and more importantly, if I can time it right, I should be able to get there while undetected. My Iowa is still pushing that flank hard, so if I pop up on A, I should have crossfires not just on the Missouri, potentially on the Sovietsky Soyuz as well. So once again, our goal is cap control and, more importantly, creating crossfires for the team. Iowa keeps going in a straight line. I'm behind islands, so I'm not afraid to shoot while remaining undetected. I slow down a bit, turn in. I don't want the Izumo to see me before it's too late. Dispersion is good. I don't quite get the kill, but I cause significant damage. Izumo pops up, he's still behind the island, he's playing too safe, he's not creating a real crossfire from there, and I capitalize on this, and I instantly speed up. If he's behind the island, that means the Sovietsky Soyuz is vulnerable, the Missouri down south is vulnerable, because the Izumo cannot prevent my push. So we have our guns ready, and we push around the island. I'd love to have the spotter plane for information, but basically we're just gonna have to gamble on where the Sovietsky Soyuz is.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
I get plane spotted. This is annoying. The Izumo plane spotting gives away my game, but the Sovietsky Soyuz is exactly where he hoped he would be. And now we're just hoping that we will have enough penetration to punch through the so-called vulnerable Soviet broadside. I angle in, and he shatters. His citadel armor, even at this range, against the incredible Izumo penetration, is enough to shatter our AP. We realign, shooting underneath the turrets, where we might have a better angle, and we actually manage to score one citadel there. However, that reload gives him enough time to start angling sharply in, and more importantly, I do not know if he's also got Kuznetsov on his captain, which means I might not even get the kill if I get him lower HP. As soon as he angles and the Izumo pushes up to create the crossfire, we stop moving in. This is where you gotta realize, the further in I push, the more crossfired I'm going to get. I'm crossfired by the Iowa, the Sovietsky Soyuz, and the Izumo. We're still relatively safe. We're angled against both. Neither can really citadel me, but they can cause some pen damage. And if the Izumo understands to push and create the crossfire, or if I push too much in, I'm gonna put myself in crossfire. So we start reversing. The more I reverse, the better my angle. The Iowa makes the mistake of taking a shot at me, showing his position, so I snipe him out as well. The Izumo is giving too much broadside. I mentioned that the Izumo does have a turtleback, but if you shoot it right underneath the smokestacks, basically the center part of the ship, you can punch straight through the turtleback. And that's exactly what happens. Izumo eats a quadruple citadel, and I keep reversing, creating more and more of an angle. My Eger is flanking the Sovietsky Soyuz, if you look at the minimap, so I don't focus on him at all. All I need to do is make sure he maintains his angling against me, and the Eger will get a flat, beautiful broadside, which he does, and he takes out the Sovietsky Soyuz. This leaves me in a 1 versus 1 against the Izumo, but my guns are already aimed, and I'm already angled towards him, and with 2 citadels, I take him out as well. That gives us the Kraken. 283,000 damage, Confederate and high caliber. 14 citadels, which for Bajie Izumo is quite a lot. In fact, for Battleship is quite a lot as well. Overall, this was a good example of just fight for the objective. It sounds simple, but ultimately, don't go around chasing useless ships around flanks. Don't go around chasing ships running away and an enemy spawn. You are most useful when you're providing support on the objectives, because that's what wins the games, fighting for the objectives. Team score wise, we don't quite get, well, we do get 3k, 2981. I guess then we can say it's a 3k, but I like breaking that 3000 number whenever I do. The Iowa in their spawn, well, he didn't really cause too much damage, but he did serve as a distraction. Even a battleship positioned poorly can be utilized if you realize what kind of angles that guy creates. Because the enemy team doesn't know if he's a poor battleship or not, they just have to respect his guns, and you can utilize that to your own favor. Detailed report wise, well, we tanked 83,000 damage, shot only AP this game, 204 shells, 78 hits, pretty good. Good average damage per shell thanks to all the citadels. Only 1.4 million potential, but this was not really about unnecessary tanking. This was about timing your pushes around mostly your team and utilizing minimap information to make sure that you're never really caught by surprise and you're kind of always the one punishing the enemy team. It also showcased something I mentioned a couple of times, which is that Eger armor is basically complete trash. Anyway, my build is my standard IGN Battleship build, which is what is it? Priority target, adrenaline rush, superintendent, fire prevention, concealment expert, expert marksman, expert loader, and jack of all trades, in that order. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Good luck in the giveaway. 15 tier 8 battleship premiums to win. You need to be subscribed to the channel, and you do need to leave a comment with your in-game name and what server you play on. Also, if you already have one of the tier 8 premiums, feel free to specify. Like, if I draw your name and you say I already have a Roma, I'd rather take one of the other two, then I will try to fulfill that request. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great one.